Hollywood writers rely on one of the most deceptive and disgusting tropes ever to be forged in the fires of Mount Doom. That trope is called the straw feminist.
Notice that Anita said Hollywood writers, which probably means privileged white men to her, but would she be surprised that women were also involved in the writing process? And why say Hollywood? You can't do or say anything to Hollywood. Hollywood is just a sign on the side of a mountain. The show Dexter had writers, Friends had writers, Frasier had writers. What Anita is doing is unfairly lumping together a bunch of writers and calling them Hollywood, which is completely unfair. Does she think there is a ruling council somewhere that absolves pernicious anti-feminist content in TV scripts? Writing is a very organic form, and it takes long hours. And when you work with a team of other writers, like many TV workshops do, you just don't have the time to convene in a committee to decide when and where you're going to add propaganda to your opus. No respectable writer is going to turn out and labor over a piece of writing that they are going to christen with their own name if it was just an end propaganda. Anita must really think there's a grand conspiracy out there to do her harm, but the truth is her beliefs are out there on the fringe like the Amish and the people who think they've seen a UFO. It's often lonely when you find yourself in the minority. Just ask a libertarian.
In television and movies, the straw feminist works by deliberately creating an exaggerated character of a feminist, which writers then fill with a bunch of oversimplifications, misrepresentations, and stereotypes to try to make it easy to discredit or delegitimize feminism. The goal is to make feminists and our movements look completely ridiculous, over the top, and unnecessary. In terms of media representation, one of the most disturbing examples of the straw feminist can be found in the 3rd season of Veronica Mars.
Well, at least here, Anita doesn't try to crucify the entire Writers Guild for the work of the few that worked on Veronica Mars. Also note, though, that before this point, the Guild had the unmistakable goal of showing the world that feminism is unneeded, like there are think tanks and blackboards in place to make this happen. It is even quite possible that she might complain about the male gaze later on that is goggling her through the walls. I'm not a doctor, but as a layman, I give her a mixed diagnosis, persecution complex, and paranoia.
Sadly, the Veronica Mars writing team turned the last season into a train wreck, partially by introducing a group of straw feminists as the villains in the series. Characters like these serve to undermine and discredit feminist movements, but they also serve to separate female leads who are smart and strong and witty, in this case Veronica, from any association with feminism. The straw feminist character is part of a fictional post-feminist world that only exists in Hollywood.
Rolling Stone magazine is quickly backpedaling from an article it published about an alleged gang rape at the University of Virginia.
The writers of Veronica Mars take the straw feminists to an obscene level by actually having them fake a rape in order to blame the fraternity.
And the story. Sabrina Rubin Erdely had no previous reason to doubt the information she received, and that, quote, her friends and rape activists on campus strongly supported Jackie's account. The magazine does admit that they did not try and contact the men named in the accusation per the alleged victim's request. The controversial story was first published on November 19th, telling the story of Jackie, an unidentified UVA student who claimed she was raped at the Phi Kappa Psi House in the fall of 2012. The story prompted numerous protests at the college, even leading the president of the university to suspend all Greek life activities. Phi Kappa Psi issued a statement following Rolling Stone's announcement, saying, quote, our initial doubts as to the accuracy of the article have only been strengthened as alumni and undergraduate members have delved deeper. According to the Virginia Attorney General, the Charlottesville Police Department and an independent counsel team are separately continuing their investigation into the allegation.
The story. Oh, yeah. And there's another thing. Rolling Stone now says that it is questioning the story itself. They said this, quote, in the face of new information, there now appear to be discrepancies in Jackie's account. Jackie is the alleged victim. That's a name she apparently goes by in this article. They go on to say, and we have come to the conclusion that our trust in her was misplaced. Wow, this is really something else. If Rolling Stone put out a story that they could not corroborate in any way, that was based on anonymous source, I mean, it's journalism 101 that you don't do something like this.
In just a handful of episodes, the creators of Veronica Mars undermined the work that thousands of students are doing globally on their campuses to end violence against women. While we see the straw feminist over and over again in television and movies, it's also unfortunately deployed on a regular basis by American talk shows and news pundits. Mainstream religious and conservative news media.
I don't think it's too much to say at this point that this story is falling apart. Now, I don't know exactly what happened when you have officials close to this fraternity at the University of Virginia campus saying the fraternity party where this alleged gang rape took place didn't even happen on the night it was supposed to have changed. And when you have Jackie, the first name of the accuser, changing her story in interviews with the Washington Post and other organizations beside Rolling Stone, whether there were 5 or 7 assailants, we've gone from serious journalistic questions about, as you mentioned, why did the reporter Sabrina Erdely not try harder to find out what the men who were accused, and people on the campus know who at least one of these guys is, to get their side of the story. Now we have basic details being questioned. We have some of Jackie's own friends saying they're not sure they fully believe her account. And we have Rolling Stone, which has stubbornly stood by the story and brushed away these questions. What you just read is not quite a retraction, pretty close to saying, throwing up your hands and saying, we're not sure we can believe what we published, a story that absolutely rocked the University of Virginia campus.
Yeah, they're not sure yet, but that story still happens to be on their website at this hour.
It looks like, Anita, that you couldn't be more wrong about the Veronica Mars story. Looks like those writers were spot on. But this Rolling Stone story, what a train wreck. You couldn't be more right if you were talking about train wrecks in this. A train wreck of epic proportions. But I know you're not going to respond to this story because you don't respond to anything.